The voice of Husker Nation is on the air. This is Hail Varsity Radio. Insight, opinion, expertise, along with the biggest names talking Nebraska sports. Join in with the show at 402-489-1240 or 1-800-825-5865. Now, here are your hosts, Chris Schmidt and Elijah Herbel.
Welcome to it Mondays here. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel. Justice is all by his lonesome. Don't worry, we're just a few feet away. It's all good. Hope you're doing okay.
Oh, he already handled himself just fine on Friday.
Yeah, he was good.
Yeah, we should make sure we don't let his head get too big, because that's where if overconfidence.
He's already got a duck when he enters into the doorway. So, yeah, we just need to keep things high and tight, as they say. It is bye week. Have you allowed yourself to exhale? As a Nebraska fan, we'll dive in a few more remnants of Nebraska Rutgers. You want to chime in with that? Welcome to do it here on a W Monday, 489-1240 or 800-825-5865. Can also email Chris at hailvarsity.com. As always, find us in the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube. Like and subscribe there, Hail Varsity Radio. Twitter at HVarsity Radio, and can find us on Twitter at Schmidt_radio, at Herbel Essence for Elijah, for Justice, at Justice Rhody, all one together, no underscores. So
we got to find a new joke, is what you're saying,
right? Yeah. It was the Polish last name on the baseball jersey. I love those by a vowel 17-time baseball jerseys. That's how Connor Clark's Twitter was. It just kept on going and going and going. It felt like that fourth quarter, quite frankly. If you were watching Nebraska Rutgers, where, all right, is it triple zeros? Thanks. See ya in Bloomington. But Nebraska hung on, and as you assess this first half, you know, Nebraska fans are really in two camps. One, your joy level matches the record. You're happy. You're happy. 5-1, 6-0 would be better, but 5-1's way better than 4-2. I mean, SC has been rudely welcomed to the Big Ten. They're 1-2 in conference play. Indiana, for the love of God, leads the league at 3-0, and Nebraska's right in the thick of it right now at halfway at 2-1 with the Washingtons and the Michigans of the world, and it's all in front of them. It's all in front of them, and they get a chance to reset, relax, and refocus. And we'll hear from Matt Rhule, his presser today, and then we'll kind of dive into some fixes you need to see pronto, and, you know, some pause, right? You pause. You can be happy about 5-1, Elijah, and you can also be real with, okay, there are certain things with this football team as they learn to win that if they don't get cleaned up, and the schedule is what it is. I mean, it's going to be tough sledding anyway, and I think they'll keep getting better. There are some knowns, there are some unknowns, and somewhere in the middle here, we'll have this final chapter written once we get to December. But right now, a chance to take a deep breath. And Matt Rhule put it perfectly when he said whack-a-mole. Because, well, you've got a stud quarterback, you've got weapons on the outside, you've got to get better at running the football. Your defense was Superman on Saturday, but they've also found some kryptonite when it came to tackling and getting outgunned and schemed against Illinois. They learned from that. Then there's special teams. All right? I don't want to get too descriptive about special teams, but in the phase of that third phase, your punting worked. Your punting worked in a windy as hell day on Saturday. That was great. A lot of other things didn't work. Your punt protection didn't work. Field goal kicking's been an issue. Does that get fixed, or is it let's roll the dice, put our big boy pants on every 4th and 1, even at your own 30? So plenty to dive into. 489-1240.
And to put it simply with what I think a theme of the show is going to be today, just to get ahead of some of the comments of people who don't necessarily feel the same way we do, and that's perfectly fine. You're entitled to watch your team how you see fit. We're going to call it how we see it. And I'm just going to lay this out now before we dive too deeply into these things. Multiple things can be true. And on one hand, Nebraska being 5-1 headed into the bye is where we thought they needed to be in order to reach some of the goals that they had for themselves this season, some of the things that we thought were possible for them. I mean, so many of us preseason in the media had Nebraska as a team that could go 8-4 this year. And where you needed to be going into the bye in order to reach your 8-4 mark this year was 5-1. Nebraska has done that. And I think you as the Husker fan can sit back and be satisfied and say, you know what? They are on the path towards having the kind of season that we thought was possible for them, 8-4. On the flip side of things, whenever you turn it to your eye test, having watched the football games, there's a lot of aspects of this football team that if you don't get cleaned up are going to hold you back in the back half of the season as other teams improve and other teams get better and other teams get a scouting report on you. There's things that are going to hold you back from being able to reach that 8-win plateau that so many Husker fans have circled as of this point in time that we want to dive into, from the rushing attack, the utilization of Heinrich Harburg, the special teams, the types of things that as you get into late October and into November and you take on your USCs and your Ohio States and your Iowas, they're going to rear their ugly head. Nebraska needs to use a bye week to get those types of things cleaned up. So two things can be true, that, you know what, it's a big sign of progress. This Nebraska team is better. They're at 5-1. That can be very true. You can be happy with that, while also understanding there are plenty of things within this football team that are holding them back from being great. They're good right now. There's things that are fixable that can allow them to become a great football team by the end of the season, or at least headed into the 2025 season. And both those things can be true at the same time. So no matter which side of that coin we're on, there's going to be people that are disagreeing the other side. And I just want to say, I think we universally here in the studio all see that. We're calling it as we see it.
Be happy, and I think we are happy for Nebraska fans that the Big Red's 5-1. There's been too many years, man, where 5-1 was a dream because it was 3-3. See, Elijah's already pissed. He's just going Bob Knight. It's Indiana week here in a week. So he's throwing the chair out of the way. If you're watching on the stream, Hail Varsity YouTube, Hail Varsity Radio, Twitter.
That thing was way too squeaky. It was frustrating me.
Needed some oil. But listen, I see 8-4 in this football team. I see 7-5 in this football team, and I see 6-6 in this football team. That is not to be Mr. Diplomacy here.
That's a great way to put it.
But that's what I see. I see 2 blocked punts, and you still win a football game, and you get a cover for Black Hills Brennan. Doesn't happen ever. What's your quarterback look like the next time it gets tough? And be it weather conditions or the fact that somebody's able to get home against Nebraska's offensive line with 4 where they drop 7. You know, you're going to see really, I mean, Iowa's defense is incredible. That's end of the season, of course, but there are other Rutgers-esque teams looming out there on one side of the football. Offensively, that is my question. I saw enough from the defense on Saturday to just say, yep, they're back. Okay, and I love. We'll hear from Rhule here. I love what he said. He said, yeah, we tackled twice last week, and after that first drive, it showed up. Nebraska was nails tackling. I love that adjustment. I love that willingness for this team and this coaching staff to say, yeah, we better go heavy. We better make sure it's not just thud or hit, and it paid off. And I think they'll employ that moving forward. That's big time. You've got a quarterback that I don't worry about bouncing back, but I worry about help. What have all the experts we've had on the show since September or August say? Running game, tight end, receiving core, those are your freshman's best friends, right? And you see, all right, you see run plays that are, that's an 8-4 football team. That's an 8-4 run game. You see 6-6 or 5-7 a lot as well. And they just got to be able to settle. And I think they have the ability to do that, and I think they can commit to it. But I just don't know that it's going to be your traditional ace formation or 2-back. Maybe they go more jumbo, and the hell with it. They may know it's coming. Doesn't matter. Nebraska's going to get their yards out of that formation. Fine. Maybe they turn to Heinrich with the quarterback run game and some zone read. And I'm not saying there's any reason to take Dylan Rhule off the field other than if you want to threaten a defense, maybe you have to turn to the quarterback run game and go Heinrich Cat from time to time. And my example is this. Didn't matter that they were different quarterbacks, but once upon a time, Nebraska went with a 2-quarterback system in the Orange Bowl. It's Tommy Frazier, it was Brooke Behringer. Well, Nebraska's option game wasn't doing much. Brooke came in, Brooke threw a few passes. Nebraska went back to the option game, even though it was a different quarterback. The defense, Ray Lewis and company, Warren Sapp and company, had to respect the run and the pass that night in Miami because you had the ability to do both. And while it might be different personnel, Nebraska can still go to that. That's a luxury they have. And we'll see if Nebraska either gets better at blocking with the running back run game or they have to implement the Heinrich Cat from time to time. It just might be a reality, to be honest with you. Let's get to some stream comments.
We do have a Talladega champion to congratulate.
Oh, yes, we do.
Stenhouse taking it home yesterday.
All right, NASCAR Eric, baby.
NASCAR Eric, I think. I'm not sure if he gets the trophy at his house or not, but a NASCAR champion
I
nonetheless.
wanted to send a picture of said trophy, and we'll post it up here on the stream. Can send that email or just DM us, and we'll get it posted here. But Arlo is in. He is first up. Jay checks in, number 2. Uncle Larry is in, thankful for the win. Coach Brandon is here. The other Dave says, happy Monday, everybody. The real Matthew is here. Tiger, shark, diver, Justice or Elijah, question mark. It's...
Get your bets in every
day.
day.
Get your bets in. Mr. Snitley is here. Jeff Snitley, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty, aggressively average. What is the average win-loss record of teams with multiple blocked punts, field goals in a game? You asked that question, Elijah. You touched on it, that it was in the stream from aggressively average. It's probably in the 90 percentile, upwards of 90 percentile, that you get a punt blocked, you lose. You lose a turnover battle, you lose. You get 2 punts blocked, you're not getting back on the bus.
Yeah. Go meet with the priest if you get 2 punts blocked.
Yes, all right. Make sure the will is signed. NASCAR Eric, yes sir, yes sir. We got to shout that out here. Talladega, baby, love it. A-Dub is in. A-Dub, good to have you. Thank you for the well wishes. Hopefully you're feeling better, Schmitty. This is not the Lenny Dykstra tribute with the Phillies playing. I left my chaw at home. It is cough drops, but I have not had a as Elijah calls them, episode.
So what flavor are your cough drops over there?
That's
a big question. Honey?
Vodka it's Vape Cool Severe Menthol. Says honey, lemon, chill.
That's
and
not
every
bad.
time I take a drink of water, my mouth blows up.
See, I keep the cherry ones over there in our production suite right across the glass here where Justice is sitting because I think cherry is the elite flavor.
It's all right. I do like the Ricola. Those are good, but they're a little expensive at the gas station. Great Red Shark is in. Welcome to the longest 2 weeks of the year this fall, fellas. Hey, it is reflective time. It's not time out time. Justice, just turn the mic on, brother.
Yeah, what's up?
I was searching through 24/7 and I found an interview with Coleman Hutzler, former South Carolina special teams coordinator. He says if you block a punt, the percentage of winning goes to immediately 90%. If you block 2, it's a 99.9% chance of winning.
Okay, because I've heard the 90% from, I think it was Urban.
Yeah.
Urban liked to bring this up. I've never heard the 2 before, so 2 becoming 99.9.
Wow. So take that and put it in your pipe for all those one-score losses, all those. I'm kidding. You did something nearly statistically impossible on Saturday, if you're a Nebraska fan.
Now, that game changes because Schiano, I'm not sure if you guys heard Schiano's post-game thoughts.
I watched all of it.
Oh, yeah. He was upset about that goal line call. I think it was second down, Monangai powering his way in. He was sure he was in. The ref's like, no, the replay center checked it.
But he did not go PJ Flack. My Lord. Facelift went ape. It was so good. It's so good. We get down with the post-game show, Real Red Reaction, and I'm turning it on. I'm getting the old TV flipped back on. Thanks for making me mute the TV because my remote went nuts and I had to unplug the TV, plug it back in. Piece of crap. Anywho, Fleck rips his headset off. It was a Manungai type call on third down. He didn't get the home cooking. This is a week after getting absolutely hosed on the onside kick call against Michigan. And they're delaying. They say USC football at the 1 after they don't give it to him on the 4th down. He gets swallowed up by the end zone with all that mass humanity in maroon and gold pushing forward. He rips his headset off. He gets real squinty-eyed, and he is just going machine gun. He is just going machine gun. Spittle's going everywhere. And he's like, get the bleep out of my face. I mean, and it was bar fight. It was bar fight Fleck. And then he turned around and stomped off, and he spiked his headset again.
Whereas Schiano, comparatively,
I was proud of him. I mean, the guy who didn't wear socks, brings his wife to the press conference at Media Day, has that damn plaid monstrosity jacket. Good for him. He wasn't going to take it anymore, man.
Compare that to the Schiano style where, and I don't think either's necessarily right or wrong, but he gets up post-game, is like, yeah, I'm not going to comment on whether I thought he was in or not. I think the head of officiating in the Big Ten is fantastic. He's one of the best. Great guy, mentions him by name. I go, that's one way to operate.
Exchange Christmas cards.
Yeah.
Jeff Snitley is in, part of the Boulder Peace Treaty. Brent is here, anonymous. Said, biggest surprise, I had fun watching the game that we ended up with only 2 blocked punts. Tim Verghese on the way with Hail Varsity.
And now,
back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Big thanks for hanging out on a Monday. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody, and Tim Verghese with us from Inside NebraskaRivals.com. Find and follow him at Tim Verghese. Great YouTube work as well throughout the week from Tim. Tim, how we doing, man? It's bye week. Are you you going anywhere? Or are you just hunkering down and checking in on recruits, man? How we feeling? He's muted.
You hear me okay?
Yeah,
now we got you.
We got you now.
There we go. Hunkering down a little bit, kind of taking the weekend to relax a little bit. The 4 straight home games to start the year, and then just the stretch that's been. I've got some traveling planned for the rest of October, so kind of taking this weekend a little slow and hanging out.
That is good, man.
The problem with the bye week being, like, it sounds really nice. Like, oh, man, a week kind of half off. I get to kick your feet up. And then you get there, and you're like, I kind of like football, actually. I kind of wish there was a football game we played at the end of the week.
Exactly. And that's the thing. Like, I'm like, oh, man, it's Saturday off, but, like, I'm going to be watching games all day, you know? Exactly. It's not like it's like a day off of watching or doing anything. I'm going to be watching games.
I might try to take a camping trip maybe, but then I'm just always going to have that FOMO of whatever primetime games there are this week where I'm sitting around a campfire.
It's too good at football, dude.
Wonder what Bama's doing right now, and that's just going to take me away from it. So
they're avoiding Nashville. That's for sure. The lock of the weekend, dude, is going to be Kentucky. Is going to be Kentucky as Vandy's got to go on the road. Just a quick aside, Tim Verghese. The way college football's been so yo-yo-y, where you have a great win one week and you get punched in the jewels the next week. I mean, that's just the world of 2024 right now, and the world of college football, frankly, about handling success.
Yeah, and it's mainly just about teams. Like, again, like I completely agree, just because of the mentality of this Vanderbilt team coming off that win and what a Mark Stoops team looks like week to week. Like, I think Kentucky's going to win that, and I it might not be close.
Exactly. Lay the 14, man, and go to town.
That's probably a 20-something point line if Vandy doesn't do what they did on Saturday.
Well, completely. What do you think of Nebraska? They survived and advanced. They looked comfortable, 14-0 at halftime, game control, things were rolling. Defense put their Superman cape on, 6 plays inside the 2, doesn't matter. Following drive starts at the Nebraska 27, doesn't matter. One drive from the 50 gets into the end zone, and it got a little tight. Good lesson for this football team to win a close ball game and get into this bye week with a 5-1 record. What stuck out to you Saturday?
I mean, you probably want more points, But you absolutely take the win. It's a Big Ten win. You had to show you could win these type of games. This year has been all about baby steps and learning lessons, and I think a lot of lessons were learned on just how to stay tough through this. And I think a big lesson for the offense and Dylan specifically is I think Dylan learned a little bit on Saturday. He doesn't have to be Superman. He doesn't have to come in and save the team. He's allowed to make mistakes. He's allowed to take risks. He doesn't have to be this perfect quarterback this year as a freshman, because the defense can step in and help them win some games. And I think that lesson was important for him ahead of this next stretch of the season, where he's going to have to be thrown into some situations where he is going to have to take over and things. But he can now kind of operate on that. Okay, if I go out there and I rip it and I make a mistake, I can lean on my defense to bail us out. And I don't need to necessarily be Superman and be perfect every single play.
Tim, we'll get to recruiting here in just a moment, but I want to get your thoughts on the second half offensive game plan in particular. Is it a winning formula, what you came out with in the second half? Because at the end of the day, your defense was balling. You got to win. Aside from that one drive that started at, I think, the Nebraska 30 following the punt, your defense still gets you out. So that's really the only time you put your defense in a bad spot. So on one hand, that's a victory, but on the other hand, it looked gross. You didn't put any points on the board. Your offense was not moving the football with much success. Which side of that coin are you on? In that, on one hand, it worked, but on the other hand, it was absolutely gross. How do you define the second half success of the Nebraska offense?
Right. I think the general plan is sound. I think the execution, like process. You're grading the process and not necessarily the results. The process of what they tried to do in the second half was pretty sound. But you and I had talked about it a little bit on Twitter, and I agree with what you said on just the running game specifically. I did think they had to get a little more creative than they did. Like, I understand the game plan of second half, we're sitting on a 2-score lead. We need to slow this game down and sit on this lead. You run the ball on early downs and try and establish that. They just couldn't do it. But I agree, they should have tried more things. I think that's a moment where, maybe you sub Heinrich and you try some of those runs and try and stretch him horizontally and make them account for some horizontal runs or some misdirection from the running game. I thought you wanted to see a little more from that, but overall, the general process of establish the run, dominate time of possession in the second half, sit on this 2-score lead, don't let them get back into the game. I thought that was generally sound, but I agree. But play calling wasn't there. And again, how much different does that second half look if Dylan, I felt like Dylan was just rattled all day, and how much different does that look if Dylan's kind of on point and feeling himself a little bit?
And I think there are two throws that really rattled Dylan, the interception first off, but then there was one also, I think it was midway through the second quarter, where he had a receiver down the left sideline. I think it was Lloyd, and he tried to air it out there for Lloyd, and the ball ends up 10 yards off the sideline and 5 yards behind the receiver because the wind caught it. Sure. And two throws that I think specifically Dylan Rhule looked different after. The one that the wind takes, the one that ends up being an interception. From that point on, he didn't quite look like the Dylan Rhule we'd come to expect through 5 games.
I wanted to ask Tim, too, with this offense, there are answers. There are checkdowns. There's intermediate throws to the flat or over the middle, and then there's the home run ball. And we saw Dylan hold for a little bit. Do you think it was a case where he wanted more than the defense was willing to give up?
Something like that. I think it was partly it was that, and partly I think Rutgers just did a really good job of disguising coverages and making him hold onto the ball just a second longer than he wanted to, because there were open receivers. There's a lot of times where it's like, okay, hey, like in previous weeks, we'd seen him take that check down sometimes too early. This week, it felt like he was taking too long to get back to the check down. I just feel like they just threw him off in terms of the pre-snap read and what they were showing post-snap. Like, the interception's a perfect look. Pre-snap, it's an RPO look. He sees a too high safety look. He immediately is like, I'm going to throw it. It's the 1 second that the ball was high. He looked up to go bring that ball in. The safety came down, and they completely changed the look between what he saw pre-snap and what actually occurred as soon as the ball was snapped. They just confused him, and they did a really good job of it. It's a good learning experience for him. And but I don't think there's anything in there that's necessarily replicable week to week. Like, defense, the book's not out on Dylan Rhule by any means. It's more so just like hey, if like any freshman quarterback or any college quarterback in general, if you disguise coverage enough, you can get them to hold the ball for a second or two longer. You just have to trust that Dylan's processing ability and his ability to layer throws in there comes through now that he's had this experience.
Tim, as we shift gears here and talk some recruiting, Nebraska picked up a 2026 commit over the weekend from inside the 500-mile radius. They go to Sioux Falls to pick up the wide receiver, Bonwell Whitty. I may need pronunciation help on the first name, so I'll leave that one to you. But what do you see in Bonwell Whitty? I think how you have it listed is he's probably coming in as a wide receiver for Nebraska.
Yeah, so his first name is Devion. Devion Bonwell Whitty. But yeah, he's coming in as a receiver, fully a receiver all the way through. Big body, outside receiver. Like his best stuff right now, for those that don't know, he's not playing his junior year because he broke his knee pretty early in the year and is out for the season. But he's a guy that you watch him watch him run routes as a sophomore, and you saw some of the stuff he came and camped and kind of made his name on the camp circuit. But he's a guy that's probably best as a deep threat. Just right now, he's at his best when he can really open up and run multiple sub 1100 meter dash times. So quick, like has the speed. Measured in as 6'2", 190 pounds. So was going to come in like ready to play weight. You know what I mean? This isn't 6'2", 160, 170 where you have to put on 10, 15 pounds on him. He's coming in like a college ready weight. Good body strength, especially good downfield, really good ball tracker. Just when the ball's in the air, does a good job of slowing down or speeding up to get under it, keeps his eye on the ball, good hand-eye coordination. I think that's one of his best traits. Yeah, I like the take from Nebraska. And I mentioned this talking with Greg Schmidt just about the commitment, but it feels like Nebraska's finding their guys now, like position-wise. You know what they're looking for at receiver. If you think about the quote-unquote swings they've taken at receiver, Tanner Turch, Jackson Carpenter, two guys that can play both sides of the ball in the 2025 class, and now Devion Bonwell Whitty. All three guys, they're both are all three around 6'2", all around 180, 190 pounds, and their best traits are their deep ball tracking ability, their ability to like really open up an offense and play the ball deep. Like they have a idea of what they want at the receiver position, and everything else what they're getting, Isaiah Mosey, recruiting Michael Terry, all of that. Those are just like, hey, we need playmakers too. We need guys that can catch across the middle, can do all these different things, Carter Nelson, all these different guys. But in terms of year to year, they're always going to try and find these 6'1", 6'2" receivers that can stretch the field.
Tim Verghese with us inside Nebraska, Rivals.com, at Tim Verghese on Twitter. What's your take on Trey Taylor, 2027 four-star quarterback? Looks like he's circling Wisconsin, Nebraska.
Yeah, very productive visit weekend for him this weekend. He even went as far to say it's probably the best visit experience he's had, and he's seen a bunch of schools already. He's just a 27, but has 29 offers, has been to LSU, has been to Notre Dame and Michigan and Ohio State, Michigan State, all these different programs. But Nebraska's right up there for him after this weekend. It meant a lot to him that Matt Rhule, literally minutes before kickoff, offered him at midfield. The fact that he got to experience the crowd, got to spend some time with Glenn Thomas, all of that really meant a lot. And again, like I asked him, like, where does Nebraska stand? And he immediately was like, the fact that I'm already working to schedule a game visit back when I didn't have that in my plans initially says as much as it does. He's going to be making 2 visits to Nebraska in 2 months now, and he's not done that at any other program except for, I think, Michigan State. So Nebraska's really up there now. They're battling the who's. Oklahoma's in there, LSU's in there. And he's a guy that we have him listed as 6'2". He's probably taller. He took a picture with Dylan Rhule after the game, and he's taller than Dylan, so he's about 6'4", maybe even 6'5" right now. Lanky frame. If you're looking for like a comparison in terms of best traits and size, it's like kind of what Jaden Daniels was at the high school level, a very lanky but tall quarterback that can rip it across the field, has some ability, not the same ability like Jaden Daniels, but has some ability to his game. Obviously not the same ability as Jaden Daniels. Those guys are hard
Just
to find.
lie to us.
Yeah, definitely not that level of mobility, but like a processor, a guy that likes being in a pro style system and that wants to be able to make reads, that prides himself on doing the little things at the quarterback position correctly.
Tim, hang tight. We got to talk Jackson Cantwell before we say goodbye, okay?
He was wearing Husker gloves.
That's what I saw. Tim Verghese, inside Nebraska, Rivals.com, where you read Tim and follow along at Tim Verghese on Twitter. And, of course, he's got different pods and YouTube shows that drop throughout the week, so check those out. Tim, hang on. We'll get you in and we'll get you out, all right?
Sounds good.
All right, more with Tim Verghese. Coach McBride on the way at 5 as well with Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Some thoughts from Matt Rhule coming up here on Hail Varsity Radio. Tim Verghese with us for a little overtime. Rivals inside Nebraska at Tim Verghese on Twitter. So, Jackson Cantwell, 5-star. The guy keeps on balling, Tim, and the chase continues to get hotter for the top lineman and arguably the top player in football. What's your feel? What's the latest with Nebraska and other suitors?
The gloves, Tim.
I think it's always a little ridiculous when people read too much into what gloves prospects are wearing, especially prospects as highly recruited as Cantwell is. I mean, here, like, I'll say this, and again, no one should read into this at all. It is solely just he was wearing it because it matched what he was wearing at the time. When I went and saw Isaiah Mosey last week. Yeah, but when I went and saw Isaiah Mosey like 2 weeks ago, he was wearing an Oregon shirt underneath his jersey just because it was a white shirt that he wanted to wear under the jersey. It means nothing. He's locked in with Nebraska. He's not going anywhere. He's not even entertaining any other programs. But guys that are highly recruited get this free merch at pretty much every school they go to. They're going to rep it. It makes sense. It's like you think about playing football back in the day and just like, oh, what do I wear underneath my jersey, or what do I wear with this? It's just like you just wear things, and I wouldn't read too much into it. I will say with Jackson though, like the latest there, it's I think the top group's really starting to separate themselves a little bit. It feels like it's Georgia, Missouri, Oregon, and Nebraska, and then everybody else right now. And I'd even say of that group, I think Georgia, Oregon, and Mizzou have a slight leg on. Nebraska's kind of in that in-between between the rest of the pack and that top three right now. What's keeping Nebraska in this is the opportunity to compete in two sports at a high level, the coaching he potentially get from the track coach here at Nebraska, in addition to the coaching you get on the field at Nebraska on the football team, the family ties, the relationships here, all of that's keeping Nebraska in it. I think it's just right now, and we'll see. I think one big thing that I want to see over the next couple of months is how he views Missouri compared to Nebraska in terms of program trajectory. Because, with Nebraska, it feels like it's a program that is on the up and up, and Missouri is as well on the up and up. But I feel like Nebraska right now, in terms of overall program foundation, is a little more sound than what Missouri is doing. And I just want to see how his opinion changes as the season progresses and as that goes on, because I think the biggest thing working for Mizzou is the in-state benefit of some of the NIL stuff they have, the early recruiting pitch they've had on him, because they've been in on Cantwell just as long as Nebraska has. But ultimately, I do think Nebraska's got staying power. They're going to maintain staying power. It's just long term. I'm curious to see kind of how he views Nebraska compared to those are the three schools that he believes are going to be contending for championships in his time in college. And Nebraska's trying to prove that they can get to that level as well.
It's Tim Verghese with us here. And Tim, as we wind it down and get you out, I know you got a story up kind of detailing the reactions for some of the recruits that were in town about their visit over the weekend. Let the people know where they can find that. And also, if you don't mind, a couple names that if Husker fans don't already know, they should get to know, become acquainted with after this weekend.
Yeah, check that out at Inside Nebraska. We've got a good rundown of just the guys that were in town. Couple names I would say to know. I mean, one big one, just not even from the recruiting weekend, but the visitors, but just from the weekend. Nebraska went out and offered 2025 Buford wide receiver Jordan Allen. He's committed to Louisville. 5'8", like speedy receiver. If everyone saw that throw from Dayton Riola last week, that big 63-yard bomb, that was Allen on the receiving end of that. He's been a favorite target of Dayton this year and was a favorite target of Dillon last year. So has a lot of familiarity with the Riola brothers. Has no imminent plans to visit. He's pretty secure in his Louisville commitment, but the Riola brothers are both working on him. They've kind of just been already talking to him about like, hey, we've had this connection. You come to Nebraska, we'd maintain that connection. So they're trying to work on him there. A couple of the guys I would say to know. One big name I would say from the weekend, Roman Voss. He's a 2026 athlete, 6'4", 210 pounds. Probably best projects the linebacker. Could play safety. Could grow into an edge. Could play tight end. Could even play receiver. But that sounds like a bunch of guys Nebraska's recruited under Matt Rhule, like 6'4", 210 freak athlete that can play 5-6 different positions. Nebraska loves those kind of guys, and Roman's the next in line. He doesn't have an offer just yet, but he's got an offer from the likes of Wisconsin and Minnesota, Iowa State. That's a good group to be in on a guy early, and I think Nebraska's going to join that pretty soon.
Tim, we'll get caught up next week. Get ready for the Hoosiers. Thanks for the time and insight as always, bud.
Of course. Appreciate y'all.
There he is, Tim Verghese with us inside Nebraska. Rivals.com at Tim Verghese on Twitter. Let's hear a little Rhule rewind And we've spent plenty of time talking here. What does the team look like to you as a Nebraska fan? You're excited they're 5-1. That means big things in the second half, possibly. And part of that is going to depend on the run game. How will and can the run game improve and be that complement with this offense to remain balanced, but run it when you have to run it, so you're not going just straight 3 and outs for the most part in the second half, right? If you're calling a run play, you want to chew clock, you want to punch away at the old midsection, and you want to get first downs. And Nebraska's not been effective enough at that. Matt Rhule was asked about the run game and big plays. Here's Coach.
So if you go back through that game, whether it's, we throw a screen to Thomas early and they tackle him low, we throw the ball to Jalen, like, we didn't just call that thinking we're going to get a first down. We're thinking that's a touchdown, okay? And he gets tackled low with one hand. Dante. And yet you go back to the Illinois game, our defense was struggling. Our offense just up and every time they scored, we answered. Guys made plays, right? So, I'm not a, hey, just do your job guy. I'm a hey, do your job and then go make a play. And so part of that is, not getting tackled. And we've gotten tackled low a lot through the first 6 games. And so it's a unique balance in that we didn't tackle great the last 2 weeks at the level I wanted us to. So we went live versus scout team on defense on Tuesday and Wednesday. We tackled to the ground. And, it's easier to do because, you're doing the tackling. You're probably not going to get hurt. And we tackled much better. After the first 2 drives, we tackled much better in the game than we ever have this year. On offense, it's hard to say, hey, go tackle these guys, right? Go in there and hit Fidoni at the ankles. Go in there and hit, Emmett at the ankles. So you're trying to always do it in drills, and it's just not manifesting itself at the level I want it to. So part of that's me, right? Part of that's us coming up with a strategy and practice. On that play, Dante stiff arms him, and he kind of stiff arms him, and we need to stiff arm him. So the week before, Washington made all those safeties miss and had 207 yards rushing. I also know, though, when you face a team led by a good head coach, if they give up a ton of yards rushing, they're not giving up a ton of yards the next week. You better be ready. And so, they played really well on defense. But that's a major area for us is those 12-yard runs have to start being 50-yard runs.
And, Elijah, I'll take in a one-score ball game, I'll take the 4-yard run. Because right now they're 1 and 2 yard or they're a loss of 1. So you had last year moments where it popped with Emmett, where he'd put it away, he'd rattle off a 25-yarder or rip off a 20-yarder, and you were in position to put the game away. Nebraska has yet to get to the point where they can slam the door on offense on somebody.
Well, you're not at the point offensively where your rushing attack can be predictable, and a predictable rushing attack can still pick up enough yardage for you to go seal a game.
You're not money enough up front to just overpower somebody.
There's not many teams in college football that can do that. I mean, Michigan last year is an example.
That's it.
Wisconsin of 5 years ago. I mean, it's rare to do, and Nebraska feels like they're trying to do that, but they just don't have the pieces to be predictable with a rushing attack and still ice a game.
We'll wind down this first hour. It's Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody in driving the bus. 489-1240. Pete will get you back on the horn here in a second. And we'll hear from Matt Rhule on tackling. We'll dive in with Coach McBride in about 10 minutes. Jay Moore also next hour, reminding you about your friends at Big Brothers and Big Sisters and what they do. They empower young people through one-on-one mentoring, long-lasting relationships, and that unlocks their full potential. You can be a big brother, big sister, or big couple, but get signed up today. MentorOmaha.org. Big Brothers, Big Sisters on a mission to recruit 60 men in 60 days by October 30th. And we're calling on men and women in the Omaha metro area to be part of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And get signed up today. 60 men, 60 days, October 30th. MentorOmaha.org. You get matched up with a match support specialist with Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And what you do is you meet your little twice a month. Fun activities, ice cream, shooting hoops, going to ball games, video games, just quality time together as you mentor a youth. MentorOmaha.org. Let's see if we've got Pete. Pete, welcome into Hail Varsity. Go for it.
The call got dropped again.
We're going to blame the phone system, not you, Justice.
Got nothing but dial tone right there, Schmidt.
Poor Pete's going to drive down from Columbus and slap you, I think. We'll try and get Pete back on. Brian is in. Brian checks in and says, this is the week to look long and hard at what works, what doesn't work, and what they need to work on. Teams will come after punts, yes. Until that gets corrected, it's time to change personnel. You want to go look at that with him?
Sure.
All right. So we'll do that. Yes, Clay is in from Bloomington. Am I making the trek to Bloomington? Clay Collier from downtown. I love it. I would love to play some golf with you, Clay. The boot is off. We are actually at Ameristar Friday before Nebraska, Indiana. So we are booked up. We are going to be in Columbus, Clay Collier. If I can twist your arm, making it down to Ohio. But if I'm not in Bloomington, if Elijah's not in Bloomington, that means there's better than a great chance that Nebraska actually wins the ball game. Vegas says -3.5. That's early. Tiger Shark Diver says he knew it. He knew it. I was a Newport menthol guy. Actually, I don't endorse any smoking, but if I were to, it would be Cools because of Eddie Murphy and Trading Places. Who's been putting Cools out on my floor? Tiger Shark. The other Brian? Work on scripting OT plays this break. Tim, the Hail Varsity Radio Show, my Monday afternoon oxygen. You're too kind, Tim. That's funny. That's pretty good. Well, looks like we will get Pete's commentary off air. And we'll talk to Uncle Charlie coming up. Charlie McBride with us. A Monday with Charlie, Mr. Blackshirt. The Blackshirt Hour, Jay Moore from Big Red Wrap Up in Hour 2. More of your thoughts, more of your calls, more of your stream comments on Hail Varsity YouTube. Always check the podcast, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play with Hail Varsity, powered by Cornhead Lager.
This is Christian Peter. I'm sorry, but the stories I have about Charlie are not appropriate for the public.
The right case of the Mondays. It's Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, on Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you, it's Hour 2. It's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody, driving the bus. He is Mr. Blackshirt. We welcome in Coach Charlie McBride. A Monday with Charlie. Coach, tough ball game, throwback ball game. Nice win by the Big Red. How we doing today?
Well, it was that was my kind of deal. That game, they played over and above what I thought they could do. I mean, I knew it had come sometime, but now they're starting to get some people coming on the edge, and they're really going to make it tough for them. And that'll make up for a lot of maybe holes inside now and then, cutback plays and things like that. And those guys get it right in the air hole when they think they can cut back, and and they got the guy coming from the outside, coming hard. So it's good. I mean, it really is. I think there's some things they have to shore up, naturally in the secondary, but the front seven guys really, really, really played hard. I mean, well, they all played hard. The hardest I've ever seen them play since the coach has been here. And, he ought to be happy with that.
Really impressive. And think about this, and I think back to a ball game, I think it was 99, and things were just going nuts. And your defense, a lot of times in 1999, had to deal with the sudden change. 50 fumbles that year. You guys didn't blink. You went in, and A&M couldn't get into the end zone. I think you guys shut them out. It reminded me of that day, just the way Nebraska responded. 6 plays inside the 2 and no points. You had to be smiling.
Yeah. Well, I tell you, the thing that happens, you can't, you got to take care of your friends. And if things are going bad for them, you really got to play. I mean, it's a matter, it's a matter of winning the game, and that's what's important. And that's why they say sometimes defense can win championships. They really can. I mean, if in some cases they can, but you want to protect your offensive guys and really play for them. I mean, you're playing for each other and all that, but they're part of the team, and you want to prove to them, and also besides the people that you love, you want to prove them that you're worth being on that field, and that's what it's all about, really.
It's Charlie McBride with us here on a Monday edition of Hail Varsity Radio. Charlie kicking off the Black Shirt Hour. And Charlie, we had a call in last hour from Pete. And Pete was talking about the way that Nebraska's defense went multiple on Saturday, where they started out the game a lot of 3-man fronts. They did some 4 and some 5-man fronts as you got into the second quarter and into the second half. I want to get your thoughts as a whole. How difficult is that from a defensive point of view to be so multiple in what you can do to be able to slow down a rushing attack, going from 3 to 4 to 5 guys as down linemen?
Well, that's pretty much what we talked about at the beginning. Is the ability to have your linemen line up different, and in some cases, some will shift. Some guys will shift. Some guys will bring their backers up and leave them in there. We did. That's a good thing to do. I think the only problem we had what we called a fool on the back of our defense. In other words, we called the defense and then put a fool on the end of it. And if we did that, that meant we had prepared a pre-game fool. In other words, we might have had all the corners up. We might have had the backers up. It looked like a straight line across there. And we actually never dropped their linebackers until the play started. Some of them you see come out early. And when you line up in there, they have to make a call. And it'll be the wrong one if they're dropping out. But you have to learn to do that, and that takes a lot of work because you got to go back to your normal position, and you got to be in your drop right. And so it's pretty tough. But I'll tell you, they're doing a great job. I really think that they're helping that offense out a lot. And the better they play, the better the offense will play.
Charlie McBride's with us, Hail Varsity Radio, Monday with Charlie. Coach, as we get to the midpoint break, Nebraska's at 5-1. Not perfect, but a lot in front of them, and they can keep getting better as the season moves forward. Do you think the run game can make and take some jumps to help the offense in the passing game? That's what I'm wondering. What you see from the O-line of the running game?
Well, the running game, they're getting better at it, even better at stopping the run. That back is as good as you're going to see. I mean, and they put the screws to him. I mean, he didn't really hurt him that much, but he's a good back. But those are the kind of things that you mentally get yourself ready to play, defensively. And I don't know what the kids are told, but I know that a lot of times coaches will tell them to do certain things that are a little out of the ordinary, head fakes and start one way, one step one way, and fake this, where you're protecting or where you're blitzing. And so when they put in a lot of that extra stuff in their rushing, they're gonna really cause some problems.
With Nebraska on offense, Coach, interested with where you think the running game and offensive line can go in the second half of the season?
Well, the second half, they're getting, the thing that's good about them is they're getting aggressive. They got some guys that are, starting to motor. I mean, move themselves. They're starting to play angry. They got but the offensive linemen are different. They have to, use a little more of their sense, their brains, and then they have to learn to cut off, and learn to stay with people, keep their balance, and a lot of that stuff comes with experience. I'm telling you, you can't. That's why I've always been mad at the NCAA for cutting back on practice, because kids don't get hurt when they're playing hard all the time, and their feet are moving, and they don't get their feet sunk in the ground where somebody can cut you or bust you or, like that. So all of that stuff that they can do, offensive linemen can do, is all they can do when people do stuff like that, is to make a call and, and then they'll have a reverse call sometimes. I know Milton on a couple of games had a reverse. In other words, if they change they'd make a call, how block and scheme. You might block the team 2 or 3 different ways and run the same play. So the people that are involved in that have to make the call to which one it is. And there's usually one guy that's live that's going to make the call. And so that's where you start really getting rock and rolling. I mean, you're fold blocking a lot, and that means let's just say the guard get blocked down on the center, and the center pull wide. He can run wide, and lead plays. He can do things, and same thing with the tight end and the tackle. And the tackle tight end come down and tackle around. And sometimes there'll be 2 guys come around, so there's all kinds of different little things you're going to do, and it's really important that you start to have some of those things as you progress.
It's Charlie McBride with us here, a Monday with Charlie on Hail Varsity Radio. And Coach, as we turn our attention to the bye week, what's coming up here, I want to get your thoughts and outside looking in. If you were in the defensive room for Nebraska this week, what do you think this defense still needs to improve upon? What would you spend this bye week working on?
I'd probably spend a couple of days on the things that they really need to work on. I mean, that coaches know what those things are. They have their regular team, but I mean, have some sessions where you're with your position coach and you're working on doing, maybe some things that you weren't good at, maybe some things that you can improve on. So you're working fundamentals a lot. And, you don't ever forget tackling. I really mean it. I mean it. If you start getting your tackling, you start forgetting about it, you're going to have trouble. They did the best job of tackling I've seen this year.
Coach, Matt Rhule talked about that earlier today, and they went live 2 days of live tackling, and they teed off on the scout team, and he obviously noticed it. So did you. So did many. It was the best game, and they had to have it because of how good Rutgers is and how good their back was. So they really emphasized it.
The important, we used to have a regular scrimmage 1 against 2, 2 against 1, and have so many plays on Wednesdays during the year. And game speed is really, really important, and because you can, blocking dummies and blocking that's a rhythm, and you can, that's to learn how to function correctly in your calls and all that kind of stuff. But it doesn't help you really fundamentally. And it's team speed. Now, you got to take care of each other. You can't cut guys, or you can't, you don't tackle, throw them down, or you don't, you do stupid things. So you protect each other, and you really don't get guys hurt. And so it was a big plus for us when we started doing that.
Well, it paid off, and we'll see if they keep with it. Last thought, what do you think of James Williams, number 90? He's had 4 sacks in the last 2 games. Really great story of perseverance from him finding his way to a tryout, and Nebraska really working with him and developing him.
That's right, and when that kid learns how to get about, I don't know, I'm not there, but I'm using a funny term, in inches. If he learns how to play a little lower on some of his moves, the things he does, that takes away a little bit of the strength. There's a lot of things he can learn, and that guy can teach him. He'll teach him some of the things that are important in rushing the passer. But as far as determination and wanting to get the job done, he's done that. He passed that test.
Mm-hmm. Super impressive. Coach, enjoy your bye week, bud, and we'll get ready for Indiana, the old Fighting Lee Corsos.
Okay, we'll have a good week of relaxing. Don't let them slow down any. I mean, don't let them get.
I'll send word. Coach says don't.
The old saying, you get your grandmother's hat pin and heat it up and stick it in there, and.
I've never heard that saying before.
Yeah.
That's a new one.
Okay, guys.
Appreciate you, Coach.
Okay, bye now.
There he is, Mr. Blackshirt, Charlie McBride, a Monday with Charlie.
He was not going to elaborate on that old saying. What's the old saying? Your grandmother's bedpan? Is that what I heard?
No, hat pin.
I heard bedpan.
No, we aren't heating up. We aren't heating up bedpans and throwing them on people to stay. No, were you just missed the motivator story? I think from Charlie.
The motivator was the old 2x4 that he had.
Yeah. Did you hear him tell that a few years back?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Well, it's urban legend.
Well,
but I don't know if it's on the Wall of Fame somewhere. if it's in an evidence locker, whatever, but. It's a 2x4 that Uncle Charlie had, and it had a nail in the end. And if you got too low or too high while you were doing hand-to-hand combat drills on the line of scrimmage, the motivator came out, and as Coach put it, this was 2 or 3 practice fields away from TO. That nail, and I don't know how sharp it was. I don't believe it drew blood ever, but you felt it.
See, we had this similar story from our high school offensive line coach, out to Coach Ryan, where he'd always threatened to bring one of the cattle prods to practice and use that as the motivator. It's the same concept where is anyone actually getting stabbed with the nail?
This might have been a rusty nail.
Likely not, but hey, man, if that thing's behind you, you're going to get some push because you don't know where it's at, and if I get pushed back, I'm right into the cattle prod or the motivator.
Right, yeah. Right. So this is just a medieval version of the motivator where probably Hacksaw Jim Dugan's 2x4 with a nail in the end of it, and some folks not only heard the wrath, but maybe felt the wrath of the motivator once upon a time.
But did not have to do with Grandma's bedpan?
Hat pin is what he said.
Yeah,
hat pin.
That's what I'm saying.
You heat it up, and
I'm confirming that I heard it wrong.
Great Red Shark says PJ Fleck looks like he should be selling pots and pans on a late night infomercial. Tiger Shark doesn't like the quarter zip. And some more commentary on what PJ may or may not do. Yes, we'll leave that one be so there's no lawsuit. Ace is in. A little less negative. Mike checks in and is negative on Satterfield. Jay Moore is coming up. Hour 2 continues with Hail Varsity.
All-State, 2-year starter, and rush in for the Big Red and NFL vet.
Is Dudeness or Duder or, El Duderino if you're not into the whole brevity thing.
It's Blackshirt Jay Moore with Hail Varsity Radio.
Back with you at Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager. Blackshirt Husker NFLer Jay Moore with us at Jay Moore 44 is where you follow him on Twitter. You watch him Big Red Wrap Up. Bird, it's recess time. 5-1. What do you think?
Hey, I'll take it. Obviously, would like to be 6-0. That'd be a little obviously better, but it is what it is. I think we've taken some lessons from that Illinois game, and I think the defense has gotten better from it. Offense is obviously much improved from last year. Still trying to work some things out, trying to figure out who they are. But overall, winning is hard. I think as this fan base, how hard it's been the last, we go back to 2016, really, how hard it is to win football games, how tough the Big Ten Conference is. And we've lost a lot of tough games, one-score games. And this team's learning how to win. And it doesn't matter if it's ugly, pretty, whatever it is. They're just learning how to score more points than the opposition in any way, fashion. And I'll take it, right? And you just get ready for Indiana here in a couple weeks.
What can the offense be with these next 6?
Well, I think they've done some good things, right? I think the passing game's been much more improved, and and rightfully so. You got a really good quarterback, and you have weapons to throw to with the additions of Nayor, Banks. You throw Fedoni in the mix, and you got to include Ja'Cory Barney as well. So I think that has been not a surprise, but it's something I didn't really know what to expect heading into this year, just with a true freshman quarterback. And you never know what to expect. Guys, they transfer, right? There's always a reason why guys transfer, but we got some good guys that have come in here and have played their butts off through the first 6 games. And I think they obviously want to get the run game going more. I think they want to be more explosive in the run game, and rightfully so. They're close. They've been really close to busting some runs. That Dowdell run, they were kind of pinned back in the south end zone. He was, I can't remember if it's a safety or linebacker, came through and made a great one-on-one tackle with him. That was going to be a big run. Ramir had a nice little chunk run over 10 yards. I think that was in the fourth quarter. But you'd like to get a little more out of the run game. But it's hard when you in college football, if you don't have a mobile quarterback where you have to defend all 11 players, it's tough to just have those big explosive plays, because the defense has a +1 advantage, and the quarterback really doesn't matter. So it's tough, but I think they're finding some things. I think Emmett Johnson has kind of picked up where he left off last year, but I think overall, this offense still wants to be very, very balanced. If they can throw it 50% of the time and run it 50% of the time, I think that's really what they want. But they're going to have to run the football in key situations, 4-minute situations, end of half, end of game. We want to control the clock, control the time possession, and just, bleed that clock. And that's a good thing, because obviously that means you're winning. But listen, this team is much improved from last year, but there's still a lot of room for improvement, obviously on the special team side. But offensively, it's been a nice little, step up in the right direction, I think, offensively.
Jay, as we kind of dive into the analysis of the first half of the season, I think there's kind of two sides out there among Husker Nation, even among those of us that are paid to talk about it, where there's the one side of you that's, well, if you came into the season telling me Nebraska would be 5-1 at the bye, a chance to be bowl eligible before they play Ohio State, you'd take that happily. You'd say, wow, this team's made some steps forward. They're improved. What a great first half of the season. But then there's the other side of things where it's based on the eye test. Has this team been perfect? No. Is there still a lot of work that needs to be done? Yes, absolutely. And I'm sure that's what the team is doing this week in their bye week, looking back at their film and saying, this is what we need to get better at. We on the outside sit here and say, this is what they need to get better at. And I think both sides can be kind of right, but how do you evaluate the success of the first half of the season? Is it more based on that they're 5-1 and that's a really healthy place to be at this point in the season and you don't need to dive too deeply? Or are you also looking at the side of it of, you know what, you need to analyze how this team has looked and there's still a lot of room for improvement?
Yeah, there's a lot of room for improvement, but I tend to not overanalyze anything. You can call that a strength or a weakness, depending on who you're talking to. I think the biggest thing is they're 5-1, right? They easily could have lost that football game Saturday to Rutgers. I don't know what the the statistics of getting 2 punts blocked, and I know it's not good, right? I mean, you should lose football games, and obviously defense stepped up big time in getting that stamina. They got the ball at the 3-yard line after that second blocked punt. Listen, I think we talked last Monday. This is just going to be a week by week, game by game. There's going to be something that's going to pop up that you thought that had been good in maybe the previous couple weeks, but they struggled with it, or had been bad the previous couple weeks, but they kind of got it figured out, ironed out, and is really good. I'm on the sense is, listen, this team is learning how to win. Let's give it that, and they're finding ways to win instead of finding ways to lose. I get the Illinois game still is in there. I understand that, but there's you can look at it from all sorts of different angles. I mean, you could say, hey, the run game hasn't been where it needs to be. The second half offense, when we've had the lead, isn't where it needs to be. Special teams obviously is a huge factor right now with this team. Obviously, that needs to be vastly improved. But with as poor as with special teams are, I'm just more of an eternal optimist and a glass half full type of guy, though, too, as poor as sometimes second half production has been on offense throughout the Purdue game, as poor as special teams have been, as bad as sometimes tackling's been on defense, and there's been a couple games. I'm going to say bad, that's not like terrible by any means, but just leaky, right? But you're just going to have instances. I think we have to remember how good Division I college athletes are. We have to remember how good the Big Ten Conference is and how many good coaches are. And like I said, it's a game. It's going to be a week by week, a game by game. There's something that's going to pop up, and I'm happy this team found a way to win. And like I said, it's just, for lack of better terms, right? It's just, hey, we're moving on. Let's enjoy this bye week, get rested, get recovered, and 1-0 against Indiana, and then rinse and repeat. 1-0 against every team after this. Whatever happens, you're just trying to get to one more win, right? And just figure out ways to get incrementally better every week, and whatever happens, and learn and get better from every opportunity you have.
Jay Moore with us here, Hail Varsity Radio. Jay, of course, Big Red Wrap-Up Tuesdays on Nebraska Public Media. Follow Jay Bird on Twitter at JMoore44. Want to go back to the run game. And they don't look at all like a bad running football team. They lean on some counters. They go heavy at times. They bring in a fullback, and it has worked. And depending on the back, there's been some nice first down carries. All that being said, when it gets to crunch time, especially in a windy day like Saturday, where throwing the footballs, is really risky. So, all right, run the football. Well, they know you're going to run it. You can't run it. It's 5-6 straight 3-and-outs, and your defense has got to go Superman. Do you toy with the idea to get more diversity in the run game of bringing Harburg in? It's not anything against what Dillon's done. It's that dual threat ability where you got the running back run and the quarterback run. Is that something that needs to be looked at in the second half?
Potentially, and I think Coach Rhule discussed this in his presser this morning, and it's hard because you obviously want to utilize the talent, and Harburg's a phenomenal athlete, and we saw him last year many times be very, very successful in the QB run game, whether that was the option or QB power or whatever it is. But he's also your backup quarterback too, right? So just, Dillon gets dinged up, and you all of a sudden, Harburg gets dinged up because you try to run some packages with him. And I get it. Same type of scenario when you have a mobile quarterback and you're running him as your starter, you're taking the risk of losing your starter. But there is that element. It's like, gosh, then you kind of want to protect them a little bit just in case something does happen to Dillon. And now you got, another true freshman quarterback or Jalen Gramstead, right? So there's that element. But I think I like it from the aspect of it makes your opposing defense have to prepare every week. And I hit on it already. I mean, when you have a mobile quarterback, everyone has to be on point. It's instead of 10 on 11, it's 11 on 11. That extra guy in the run game, you lose that edge. So everybody has to be on point. Gap has to be gap sound, has to be physical, has to be technique sound. If you're one gap shy, it's going to be a big gain. So I would love to see them throw that wrinkle, and they have at times, and they know it. So I know they, whether it was in the second half Purdue or in other games, they've thrown that wrinkle that just makes those coordinators have to spend an extra 10, 20 minutes protecting or of going against that in practice, which is huge. That's 10 extra minutes or 20 extra minutes that instead of preparing against our passing attack or our traditional run game that you have to spend on a Harvard package. So it'll be interesting to see. That's the nice thing about a bye. It's kind of the kiss of death, right? The bye week, you get some extra time to kind of do a self scout, right, through the first 6 games, and what do you need to improve on, right? But also you got a little more time to kind of tinker and toy, and what else you can throw in there. So maybe that element gets thrown there a little more, but maybe it doesn't need to. Maybe they just need to focus on what has gotten them here so far, and how do we improve on that? How do we improve on a traditional run game? Do we need to run out of I formation more often? Do we need to utilize Dowdell as a fullback and Emmett Johnson as a running back at times? Do you go, just some different wrinkles, right? I mean, they've kind of shown some, their ability, like the run game, the play to Bonner, fantastic, right?
Mm-hmm.
That element of it with Ja'Cory Barney. I know those are technically passes because it's getting tossed out in front of them, but it's just another utilization of the run game. So we've done multiple things. I think from the fan base's perspective, you'd like to see us be a little more traditional, right? Because that's what we remember, right? That we were so good at it for so long was power and counter and all those, and sweeps and dives and fullback traps and whatever it is, right? But I think you'll continue to see this thing evolve. But it's also you got weapons all over the place, man. There's a lot of the cupboard isn't empty with his offense, so you got to utilize them and in the pass game as well. But I think coming out of bye week, and I think coming to Indiana, you'll probably see just a few more wrinkles, I'm guessing, that they're going to be able to put in place to kind of keep this Indiana defense, just second guessing themselves.
Jay Moore is with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. A few more minutes with Jay as we dive into Nebraska and Rutgers, the 14-7 victory, as well as bye week thoughts and what's coming up with Indiana. And Jay, we've spent some time here talking about the offense. I want to talk about the defense for just a second. Impressive performance on Saturday. You referenced the goal line stand. I think Shiano still thinks Monangai got in on that second down play. Alas, doesn't happen. Nebraska's defense gets the ball back.
There was BS call in the end zone with interference.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, holding call. There's a couple BS holding calls, let's be honest.
So, Jay
says the defensive guy.
Jay, we're not going refs. We're not going refs here. We're going defense. Based on the concerns that were out there following Northern Iowa, following the Illinois game, it's back-to-back outstanding defensive performances against Purdue and against Rutgers. Have your concerns with the Husker defense been put to bed? Have they shown you enough to say, what they showed against Illinois was not what this Husker defense is?
Yeah, they've improved. Their adjustments have improved. Rutgers ran the ball fairly successful in that first half. He had 68 yards in that first half and only had 10 in the second. But ability to stop the run, Rutgers was running almost 240 yards a game averaging, and they didn't get anywhere near that, obviously, on Saturday. So that's hats off. And that's just, I think you'll have teams that will run the ball decent against this defense at times, but I think our ability to adjust on the fly, and it's even in making the adjustments on the fly with younger players. That's what's been I've been impressed with. You saw more Shavers. You saw Riley Van Poppel come back in. Judy played a bunch. They're rotating a ton of guys to keep fresh bodies, and you really don't notice a step in when those guys come in. But listen, the issues from Northern Iowa and Illinois, in my opinion, it wasn't about physicality. Stopping the run is always just knowing where your help is, playing with good, solid fundamentals, technique, setting an edge, and being in control. As soon as you get out of control, not trusting where your help is, not trusting your technique, and being out of control, that's when you start getting gashed. They just look to be just their techniques are better. There's always someone there. I've in the one play, it's just simple stuff, right? I mean, early in the second half or first half, excuse me. I mean, Gifford comes in through cleanly and gets his shoulders turned upfield, right? His hips turned upfield. Well, then Monungai is able to bounce it because if he would stayed square, he's able to make that play. It's just little things like that. Similar play, I think, in the first half as well. He bounces it up. They're going towards the north end zone. He bounces again. Well, Ty Robinson's on the edge. He gets his shoulders turned. Now, that might not be his play, but if his shoulders stay square, his belt line's parallel to the line of scrimmage, he's able to come back and make that play. It's just little things like that people don't notice. It's not a physical thing. It's just a body control thing and just a physics thing, right? You got to you always have to have good, proper understanding of what your role is in every defensive call against a run. And just little things like that. They were doing their job. It's just like footwork and a little bit of technique stuff. Those plays, instead of being a 10-yard gain, they're a 2 to 3 yard gain. So, listen, there's enough guys who play a lot of football in this defense. I think they're going to be just fine. They're improved. I mean, the fact that this defense, and they did it last year, their ability to bounce back and not allow points when they get put in sudden change situations. And we saw it against Northwestern last year, Illinois, you just name it, right? Where a turnover happens or a punt's blocked and the opposing team, you hold them to a field goal or 0 points. It just doesn't happen. And their ability to do that and make plays when they need to get made, I think that's honestly, Elijah, what I take away, not even from the run game, is just their ability to what Illinois is able to do against us in the passing game in short yardage situations inside the red zone. Rutgers tried some of those similar things, and we handled them rather well. That play Singleton made on the little shallow slot route.
On the goal line?
That was on the goal line. That's a big-time play. Now he was in a more of a man-to-man situation, but, hey, you're able to get through the traffic, not get picked off, and make that play. That's vastly improved from the Illinois game just a couple weeks ago where guys are running into each other and not communicating. So it's just the little things that don't take much. And when everyone starts executing, do the little things right, this defense is going to be tough to beat.
They got fixed, and it showed up against Rutgers. Jay Moore with us, Big Red wrap-up at JMoore44. Jay will end with this. MVP on the defensive side of the football for the first half goes to who?
Oh, geez. John Bullock.
Okay.
John Bullock, 1A, and I'd say Ty Robinson, 1B. If I get two votes, but I'd say Bullock has been fantastic. His ability to, on the turnovers, getting the strip fumble Illinois game to get the momentum going, the pick six against Purdue, he's just been solid. I think he's been really consistent. But Ty has been Ty Nash. I mean, they're playing the tails off. The sacks you've seen are coming. The TFLs are coming. But I think Bullock has just been, I'd say he's been the most consistent guy through 6 games, so I give it to him. Offensively, not to lead you or anything, do you go Rhule? Yeah, it's hard not to. It just is. I think he struggled a little bit in the second half. I think he had a little gun shy after he threw that pick. He had some open receivers. He kind of just failed to pull the trigger on, and just his pocket presence wasn't as good as we've seen previously. It's hard not to give it to him. It is. I think this offense is not even close to where it is without him. So I don't know how you don't. He's been fantastic. He really has. His ability to throw the ball to where only his guys can catch it. I know the pick was he didn't see that guy, but he's taking care of the football very, very well. He definitely 1A. A 1B guy would be, I don't know, Nair or Banks. Those guys have been good. Offensive line, it's hard to pick one guy. They've been solid. They've been decent. There's still a lot to improve there, but I'd say my MVP through this first bye week. You got to give it to 15. He's a weapon, man. He's a weapon, and I'm glad he's on our side.
Jay, as we kind of take you through your mid-season report card, who's a guy that you're looking at that you think can play better, that if they do, on either side of the ball, offense, defense, or special teams, that if this person plays better, you think it means really, really good things for the Husker team as a whole? And I'm not saying that they're necessarily playing bad, but who do you think's got some room to step up and who could really impact this team down the back half of the season?
Yeah, man, individually, I mean, first guy that comes to my mind individually, I think if they can utilize Fedoni more, get his hands, get the ball in his hands more. I don't know if the knee injury is just, I don't know if he seems a step slower or what it is, but you want to see some more of him because we've seen how explosive and how well tight ends are used in offenses nowadays can be. I think he's a guy, I don't know about defensively, man, there's guys have played well. I mean, Sierra's come in and played fantastic with Hill being down. I think Jamari Butler's playing hurt. I have a hard time picking a guy defensively, but I think everyone's playing at a pretty high level. MJ Sherman's done his things at times. I have a hard time, but I think if there's one guy that I think is not necessarily underutilized, but he picks it up, man. I think Fedoni would be my guy to pick. He's not playing bad by any means. Say that first and foremost, but his body size and athletic ability, he's such a weapon that I'd love to get the ball in his hands more.
Jay will holler next week. Gear up for them Hoosiers, all right?
Sounds good, boys. Big noon kickoff.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time, it's Hail Varsity. We're powered by Cornhead Lager, Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbel, Justice Rhody. Good to have everyone in. Becky making their way in. Been here for a while. Appreciate you. Cliff is here. Moonbot. We had Moonbot sightings. Love it. Appreciate it, man. We have a couple of shout-outs. Steven is in as well. So you have NASCAR Eric delivered.
Look at that beauty. For those that are watching on the stream, you can see this. If you can't,
Hail Varsity YouTube.
Pull it up. Yeah, as Schmidt said, the Hail Varsity YouTube page. We got the picture in from Eric from the garage. There is the winning car from Talladega with the Yellowwood 500 trophy right there on top. So NASCAR Eric's been working for the Stenhouse team for a couple years now. Ask and we shall receive. We asked for a picture of the trophy, and there it is. So
we just wanted to shout out NASCAR Eric, not prove it, man. We weren't going that way. We totally believe it. We totally buy it. Our old boy Tim Bob. We love catching up with Tim Bob with high school coverage and Real Red Reaction coverage. He was at a wedding this weekend, and shout out Devin in Grand Island. He was at the wedding, and it's like, dude, you're Tim Bob. It's like, yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. Tim Bob was kind enough to talk some ball with Devin, and Devin, appreciate you listening, man, as you catch us Spotify, iTunes, Google Play on your time with the podcast.
I ran into to our good friend Ryan, actually, on Saturday night.
Oh, did you?
He's like, you guys weren't at Single Barrel. What's going on? I'm like, Schmidt is near death. He is.
Dude, I sound like such a wuss. Between our old boy Duda, like, where's Schmidt? And I couldn't be out in public. That sounds like I got my pinky in the air and I'm asking for more Grey Poupon, please. No, I felt like garbage Friday and Saturday, and probably sounded like it.
Well, I thought I said you were near death and recuperating. You couldn't be bothered to leave the house.
Couldn't play hurt. That sounds so high maintenance. Hey, couldn't be bothered to leave house. That's so wrong.
No, but it was good to see Ryan.
I'm sick. I'm sick. We'll be back for UCLA at Single Barrel. And we'll be back at it at Hurrdat Sports Bar and Grill. That ticked me off. I love me some patio shows. Love the Gretna location. We'll be back at it. And yes, I promise. So hopefully the antibiotics I'm going to pick up in 10 minutes.
Well, you haven't picked him up yet?
No, I just got him called in. I had to go see the doctor again today.
And here I am sitting in studio with you.
It happens. I would have killed you off by now. I mean, with illness.
That's one way to put it, yeah.
With illness by now.
If I wanted to kill you, I would have. Thanks, Schmitty. Appreciate that one.
I went and got. Everyone's going to take this the wrong way in the stream. I went and got tested, but it was right, and just normal cold. But there's some other maladies going on, so some drugs will be good. Can't wait.
You can't say you went and got tested and there's some other maladies going on. You can't say it like that.
Sure, I can. I'm still upright and good.
Again,
the wife
you're leaning into the STD joke.
She threatened me again last night because the only way I could get to sleep was to take the giant Great Wall of Berlin pillow and perch up that way. Buckle up, use your seatbelt. It saves life. It prevents injuries only if properly worn. Make it click. Message from the NDOT Highway Safety Office. Verghese tomorrow, Bruntsea tomorrow, Mitch Sherman tomorrow.